Rise and shine on Australia's Vision Christian Radio.
Andy, we're having fun this morning. You're on location at the Redcliffe Aerodrome where we're celebrating 80 years of MAF.
That's right. It's fun with a capital F down here today, Phil, because there's so many amazing people down here. I've just met another one, and her name is Jo. She serves on the board of Mission Aviation Fellowship, but her and her husband, who had a career change at some point in his life, have served on the mission field in Africa and Papua New Guinea. Jo, welcome to Rise and Shine this morning.
Morning, Andy. Thanks for having us.
So tell us your story. How do you and your husband end up being missionaries with Mission Aviation Fellowship in Africa and Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, well, Matt's always, as a 4-year-old, African pilot came and preached at the church where his dad was pastoring. So he's always had a desire to and a passion for aviation. When we got married, I didn't know that at all.
He didn't tell you?
He didn't. He was working as a draftsman, so there was nothing about aircraft. So I started to take him on, birthdays and anniversaries on these flights. Little did I know, of course, that his passion would come again for aviation. So it wasn't long after we were married that he decided to have a change of career and did his apprenticeship at Brisbane. And then through that, they asked, where do you all want to go once you finish this certificate in engineering? And he said, I'm a Christian and I'd love to go into a mission-based organization. So his lecturer actually said, have you heard of MAF? Because he had worked up in Papua New Guinea. And so then we started the process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you ended up in Africa. Which part of Africa?
So we served in Uganda and Tanzania.
Okay.
And so at that time, MAF was moving. I don't know how much you know about airplanes, but I call them dashboards. I don't know what they are in aviation terms. But our planes are quite old. And so we still had, the turn knobs on the dashboards.
Yep.
And so MAF were upgrading to the touchscreen Garmin dashboard. So Matt was a part of that design work with a colleague in the Netherlands. And they worked on that for 6 months. And then, of course, they needed people around the world to implement all of those and to install all of those dashboards that I call them around the world. And so our family was asked to go for a 5-year stint over, and we were supposed to go to Madagascar, Mongolia, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania.
I was just thinking, it's very brave to be doing that. You had kids at the time?
We did. So when Matt finished his apprenticeship, which he did up in Mariva at MAF, as soon as he was a licensed engineer, they sent us over to Papua New Guinea. So we took our 5 kids and we went to Mount Hagen, and we lived there for 4.5 years. So 2 of our older kids were high school age. So the planes were actually their bus rides to and from school. And then our 3 younger kids were homeschooled and then went to an international school there in Mount Hagen.
Well, what do the kids think now, having had such an interesting upbringing?
Well, actually, 2 of them, one's got a pilot's license, commercial pilot's license. One's got his helicopter license. Our eldest daughter, she's just about to graduate from her teaching degree. She would love to, all her life, she's loved to be back on the field teaching and missions. That was one of her heart's desires. And our son is actually a worship leader right now here in one of our churches, but he's just finished his degree in wildlife and animals. And so he'd love to go back to Africa and serve over there. And then our youngest, she's just had itchy feet ever since we came back to Australia. So every year it's, Mum, when are we going? Mum, when are we going? Kind of thing. So she actually just came with us to a trip. We just flew in last week from Nampa, Idaho. So we went across to our MAF US base for 2 months, where Matt and an engineer from Madagascar worked on a plane that's going across to Madagascar. So we just got back last week from that.
Wow.
Tell you what a great advertisement for working for Mission Aviation Fellowship. Sounds like the most adventurous, exciting life you can have. And you've got a family of pilots. I mean, you've got a husband, or he's not a pilot, but he's an engineer.
He's on there, fixes them.
He fixes them, and you've got a son with a pilot's license. Just out of interest, when you look at me now, what word comes to mind? What do you think when you see me? Like,
yeah, not bad. It's pretty cool.
Now we're saying that because Andy's dressed
Top Gunny look.
Oh, you said the word. Say it again.
You've got like this Top Gun look.
A Top Gun look. Okay. And which character in Top Gun are you thinking? What do you think I'm looking like, Jim?
What do you want me to say?
Just don't say Goose. Anyone but Goose. I'll take
Maverick, of course.
Oh, yes, the Maverick look. They've got the Maverick look. There you go, Phil. Out of the mouth of babes, the Bubba says, people can't lie. These good people can't lie.
No.
And she's not lying. She's telling the truth.
Okay, I've got a question for Jo then.
Telling the truth.
We'll keep you there for a second. But Jo, would you trust Andy in his current form to fly the plane today?
Oh, wow. I trust him sitting next to one of our pilots.
Yes.
There you go.
There
There
you go.
Help fly the plane.
Yeah, a wingman. We all need a wingman. Everyone needs a wingman.
It's a great wingman. You're on Rise and Shine with Fel and Andy, and we're out at the Redcliffe Aerodrome, Andy, where you're mingling, you've got your flight jacket on because we're celebrating 80 years of Mission Aviation Fellowship Australia.
Yeah, rocking the aviators, Phil, but more importantly, just meeting some incredible human beings. And one of them standing in front of me now, it's Jo. She's on the board of the Mission Aviation Fellowship, but she's also served on the mission field alongside her husband, Matt, and their 5 children. Jo, let me ask you, what's been one of the highlights for you about serving God in a foreign land?
I think it's seeing how God works in ways that we would never, ever experience here in a first world country. So when you're living in some of these third world countries, things that we just take for granted, school, education, vehicles, transportation, all of those kind of things, you see that in a completely different light when you're out on the mission field, and you see how isolated communities live. And so that's been a real blessing to be able to see that, be a part of that, and to be able to share Christ in all of that as well as we've been over there.
Yeah, because you said you like seeing God move in those settings. So how have you seen God move in those settings that have some very real practical challenges?
Yeah, so we actually were living in Hagen, and we served thinking we were going there to serve and help the local churches and get involved in a local church. It's kind of this idea that, not that we know it all, but we've got something to contribute.
Yeah.
And then we get over there, and their churches are just thriving and just, they love God. They just love God. They love Jesus. But sometimes there's a depth of understanding of that personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so we were very blessed to become a part of the Hagen Club up there. And we went there purely to play sports and to take our kids. But during that time, we're playing sports along with some of these guys. They ask us who we are, what we do. We built relationships with them. They heard about our faith. And so then, of course, they start to ask questions. So we started to run the Alpha course with them. And then some of them became Christians. And so they said, hey, can you guys do a church? Because some of these guys are expats, so they're mixed race, where, Australian government were looking after PNG back in the 70s and 60s. So some of these kids have Australian or American father and a Papua New Guinean mother.
Yeah.
And so these mixed race, they're kind of torn in between the cultures.
Two cultures, yeah.
Two cultures. So they might get educated down here in Australia or in the US, but then they come back to their communities and their villages. And so for them to go to church sometimes is quite hard because, they're kind of looked upon as royalty. Come and speak, come and do that. So they're saying, hey, can we do a home church? So we started up a home church with another couple from MAF, and we would run DVDs. We would worship in local language. We would worship in English. Our kids would take care of their kids, have a little Sunday school kind of thing. And what's exciting is even now, that's 20 years on, these guys are just growing and thriving in their faith in God. Wherever they are, some have left PNG, they've gone to Australia or America, but they love Jesus. And so that's just been incredible to be a part of that and to be a part of what he's already doing. It's his story, and he's just inviting us to be a part of the ride.
So inspirational. Jo, thank you so much for having a chat this morning. I just love that the Mission Aviation Fellowship team are spreading Jesus' love wherever they go. They're in the community, planted in the communities, and then at the same time, you're taking planes out and helping people in vulnerable areas. It's just God's heart in action. Jo, it's so inspirational. Thank you for coming and inspiring us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.